So, check this out.
Yeah.
A guy wakes up. Massive hangover. So, massive hangover. He's about to throw up.
This is what Herzog has to
that
deal
he's
with for
naked,
his
no jeans,
audience
no
during
undies.
his comedy
He reaches
routine.
for his dick, and he finds that he has 4 balls.
Jojo?
Okay.
So, he immediately grabs his phone and dials his old man. Dad, I woke up the morning after, and suddenly I have 4 balls. His
And my
dad
voice
goes,
isn't deeper.
Get out of there, son. You're being fucked.
That is...
You're done?
That is the most we are trying to have a Hawkins-esque joke from Predator in our game.
Oh, 100%.
And somehow I don't think it is as good as... So I ran up to my girlfriend and said, "Geez, you got a big pussy. Geez, you got a big pussy." And she asked, "Why did you say it twice?" And I said, "I didn't."
It was the echo.
Property, in a way, I guess they do.
Yeah.
They want higher wages
I'll
or
admit, with that
something.
particular
That is what
joke
this is about.
from Predator, is like, I admit, it took me a while to get it. And when I did, I laughed not because it was high comedy, but because I was like, oh, God fucking damn you, Shane Black.
Yep.
Don't give 'em hell. They might look
Thing is,
Which meant it worked.
he wasn't even meant to be in the movie. They were just like,
No.
we need someone who's really annoying, and the guy who was meant to be playing that role ducked out on us. So he was like, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, he was gonna die first anyway.
Yeah.
Hang on. The wind is heavy.
And even still, it's still better than The Predator. That was, Jesus Christ, that was an awful movie.
We never talk about the Predator.
I
Not in
try-
this household.
I try not to, but it keeps hurting me.
I know, a lot of things hurt us, but we gotta push back past the pain.
So you actually controlling this segment, or is it automatic?
Yes. Yes, you aim and mark, and then Herzog shoots.
Cool.
And it lasts for this amount of time, and then it's back to main gameplay. It's funny, I look at that... do you remember that bit at the end of the 6th mission in Devil's Third, where it decides to go Call of Duty Breach mode?
Oh, yeah.
I see this as like Wanted Dead's version of that, where it's just this random gameplay segment that is not part of the core loop, but we do it anyway because it lasts 30 seconds, and really, who cares?
See, I was thinking of it as Wanted Dead's version of that scene from Spec Ops: The Line, which is even funnier.
Herzog, fire the white phosphorus.
What white phosphorus? I already used it in that kindergarten.
No, but considering that he's like he's a known sexual predator, he's probably like, I got some white phosphorus right here, crotch chops.
See, I can't hear something like that without thinking of Duke Nukem saying it. I got your white phosphorus right here, baby.
I'm also thinking of that bit from like season 2 episode 3 of Pop Team Epic when they're parroting the young children's shows like Dora the Explorer, and there's like the sex predator there where it's like, don't you want to squeeze some of my milk? And then cuts to sawmill, dude's about to get his dick cut off with a saw blade, like dick up vertical. Oh man. Anyway, these are the synthetics. They look weirdly human. Don't worry about it.
Kind of reminding me of the average Joes from Alien Isolation.
Yeah,
With
but still more human than those.
Yeah. More human, but still with that sort of bald, not quite right, uncanny valley kind of look to them.
Yeah, like metallic implants and things like that.
Yep.
Still, very odd, these things, you know? Because, I mean, like, it's funny. You think that this game is, like, there is a bit of a focus on the fact that, like, there are these synthetic workers, but the game's, like, not really, like, trying to make this, you know, like a Blade Runner type of situation, you know? Where it's supposed to... Well, I guess it technically is supposed to say something about Hannah, but not so much everyone else in the units.
It's like, no, when I saw that there was going to be like lots of synthetics in this, first thing my mind went to, surprisingly, was Binary Domain, which is like a really underrated PS3 360 game.
That is a neat game. What are the few examples you can point to where, like, yes, this is a Japanese-made third-person shooter that is above the usual cut?
Yeah. And in terms of, like, budget and feel, like, it's... Like, this is probably the closest that you would get to it on a modern console.
Yeah.
Like, more to it than you would expect, and better than you would expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, weird how, like, these synthetics now have, like, heavy-duty equipment like grenade launchers. Is like... I think it's more than just a simple, like, civilian riot.
What kind of construction were they doing exactly that required heavy ordnance? I would like to know.
So you saw that black and gold gun there, which I'm not using right now because it's not important, but later it will. But yeah, that was Vivienne's rifle. It's when you switch to it, you cannot change out any of, like, the customization options for it.
Yeah.
Because it's meant for specific situations. But yeah, going into this, it's like, it's funny. Like, once you get past, like, the first mission and how they're, like, it has the very clearly difficult moments in there with, like, the ninjas. Once you get through that, and then the police station and earning a bunch of skill points to get to, like, the second to last row of skills, it's like, you really do feel like the difference in power from where you were at the start to when you start this mission right here.
A very Devil May Cry, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can do things now.
Yeah, but, like, more pronounced because of the fact that, you know, it's not this combat gameplay going on all the time. So, like, it's like you start this and it's like, oh wow, I can suddenly insta-kill enemies as soon as they are missing an arm. Awesome. Or, oh, I have a special melee counter I do where I intercept an unblockable attack with my handgun, and then I do just, like, a forward slash that instantly takes off a leg. It's great.
I gotta say as well, the blood effects on the characters are really good. I don't think we've seen the same like amount of blood covering them twice in a row.
Yeah, it's very.
I don't know if that's, like, programmed per level, where she's always going to wind up with it covering her face, or what. But it looks really good.
It's per gameplay segment. Like, it basically cleans up Hannah every time you die or reload a checkpoint.
Right.
So for a lot of, like, I actually die very few times in this game. Like I actually do not get a proper game over until the end of mission 3, which is, you know, that's already like 3/5 of the way through.
Yeah.
So I'm basically gonna be going through this game, like, catching all kinds of bloodborne diseases.
Turned
See,
out.
look at that handgun finisher on enemies that are even far away. Like, they know as well that it's like, it makes no sense for you to slide around to the same degree that Batman does in the Arkham games. So we're just gonna make it so it's like, even if it's out of range, you can still kill him with a gun and make it look stylish.
The most important thing is to make sure it looks fucking cool.
Yep, definitely the sort of thing that deserves props, even from people that may think that this game is too janky or weird for them.
Oh no, this
Like,
is just the right level of jank that I like in a game.
Yeah, I mean, like, because it manages to be less rough than Devil's Third was. Even though I will confidently say that I still like Devil's Third's, like, approach to this gameplay concept more. Like, there are it's more due to, like, I mean, obviously I do miss having a wider variety of weapons to play with, especially melee ones, because you remember how, like, your melee moveset could differ greatly, anywhere from, like, using knives all the way up to a sledgehammer, you know, just the speed difference.
Yeah, there was, 5, 6 different types of melee weapon, if I remember?
I think it was about almost 8.
I remember there was like 4 or so different types, and there was, like, variations thereof.
Yes, yeah, like one-handed light, two-handed weapon, that light, medium, like, sword types, and then, like, the heavy types.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the sort of thing where obviously I missed that variety, but I think even then there are just some particular details with how this game handles the switching between melee and shooting, particularly when it gets into shooting and the camera, where even though it looks more acceptable by modern standards, because conventional thinking is like, of course you have the camera offset where the player is, where it's looking over the right shoulder. Oh, there it is. There's like the first time that fucked up.
Yep, I think something went a little awry there.
Yeah, but it fixed itself. It's okay.
Here they come.
But it's just the things where it's like, it reminds you how there is still merit to the idea of that, yes, you could make a shooter where your character is still centered on the screen. Because, especially if you're trying to go to the effort of simulating the detail that these bullets are actual projectiles that are spawning in-world and moving forward at high speeds, that, like, you end up in, like, some weird janky problems if you are trying to accurately capture that detail, but it's not coming from the center of the screen directly towards the crosshair.
Yeah.
And that leads to the sort of problem where it's like, where, like, you cannot do a melee combo and switch to hip firing and expect it to hit the enemy.
Yeah.
Like, the only way you could really make it work is if you press the left trigger to aim and then press the right trigger to fire. It's really weird because it's like, that was something that I remember trying to do first things first, because you could obviously do that in Devil's Third, because the camera, like, the center point was always made to match where like the crosshair was going to be in shoot mode. Yeah, it's just like a minor frustrating element about it that I wish they had kept that aspect of it, but I get why, because, you know, like, on top of all the jank, that definitely was a thing that contributed to people thinking that Devil's Third was, like, such a hilariously bad game of some sort.
Yeah.
Because it was like, who makes a shooter where the person is in the center of the screen? And it's like, no, there's actually good fucking reasons for it, numbnuts.
Yeah. It makes me think, like, I was talking about Silent Hill with someone recently, as I do quite frequently. And they were shocked because I was like, yeah, Silent Hill 2 is objectively the best in the series, but it's not my favorite. And they were like, why are you I understand the words you're saying, but the order you're saying them, they make no sense. And it's like, yeah, it's just the one like, Silent Hill 3 is just the one I prefer. So, you know, even though one is obviously superior in many ways, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best in the series.
Yeah. And in the case of, like, these two games, it's like, yeah, Wanted Dead, like, as the whole package is definitely the better game, because, you know, you can run it and it's not gonna be painful. But even, like, the gameplay has, like, unique merits to it. Like, it is, on the other hand, it is a good thing that they created different mechanics and, like, another way of approaching this high concept, instead of just being like, well, we have all this work from Devil's Third and all our failed multiplayer free-to-play versions that we had to shut down. So it's like they actually did some reevaluation. And a lot of the ideas, I think, are good. Like, I do like having more melee combos and discrete moves assigned to your melee weapon. But, man, how cool would that be if you could do it with a fire axe?
It's one of those things where, like, when you take off the rough edges, you actually lose some of what you liked in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it doesn't quite make sense, but it's a lot more fun to do it this way.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm glad you and I have like gone through the same frustrations where we had to, like, try and describe to people that there is such a thing between what you think is objective best and subjective best. Yeah,
it's because what is like, you know, what is objectively a good game isn't necessarily one that I'm going to enjoy as much as others, you know?
Yeah.
Like Persona 5, for example, to go back to that, is in terms of gameplay, it's objectively the best. But in terms of characters and story, gotta give it to the second games in the series.
Yeah.
And, you know, as you say, there are a lot of people that just don't understand. They're like, no, best is best. It does not compute. It's like, not always.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of how I feel like it always stems from people. Like, I feel like a lot of people kind of go at it with this train of thought that is understandable, which is the idea that, you know, like, all these things we talk about, what we like and dislike, are ultimately opinions. But that doesn't change the fact that, like, there is still an objective reality to things. And that you have to acknowledge that that also applies to the media that we engage with.
Yeah. I mean, there's an old line about how the beginning of communication is the agreeing of terms, you know? Like, you can't really you can't really talk about the sky without first agreeing that it is blue and sometimes grey and there are clouds up there. So if you're not willing to say, right, here are the basic terms, then you're kind of like, well, what are we doing? We can't agree that A is A, so if we can't get at least that much sorted out, we're talking at cross purposes.
Yeah. Like you can talk about how, you know, like designing the mechanics in these specific ways for a game allows for these strategies to come forth, and, you know, like, that much is certainly, like, you could say that, like, it fits your strategy the best, that, like, you could say that as your opinion, but that also means you can't really dismiss the fact that there is such a thing as good kinesthetics, and that if, like, a gun sounds like it is firing at several decibels lower than it should be, then that is just not right.
I remember, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times before, but I used to work for a game review site back in about, I think it was about 2007, 2008. And one of the games I had to do was, I was the only person, it was a Nintendo site, and I was the only person that worked for that handled the DS side of things. So I used to get,
I recall this.
I used to get so much crappy shovelware and licensed games, but because I was the only person doing it, I had to smile and swallow the sandwich. And one of the games that I did was a tie-in game for the G.I. Joe movie, which came out about that time. And one of the things that really confounded me about the game was that you could power up your weapons by getting kills. But as you did, the weapons, rather than, you know, sounding like more bassy or lower pitched, would get higher. So in a weird roundabout way, your weapons sounded like they were getting weaker even though they were firing faster and doing more damage. And I was like, this is a really... Whoever did this, they need to go back and think about their presentation, because this is a fuck-up on a monumental scale. Like, I do not feel like I'm getting more powerful. I feel like I'm firing mice at the enemy.
Yeah, like there are just things about art that made that, like, have to, like, abide by, like, just some, like, rules and expectations, and, like, stuff that shows that it needs, like, a certain level of craft to execute.
Yeah, like,
obviously, and
you can absolutely break the rules, but you need to understand what the rules are and why you're breaking them at this particular time, you know? And
which is why Will Palio is the greatest rule breaker of all, because look at Cruelty Squad.
Exactly. Like, everything in that makes sense, although it might be a sense that you don't understand at that given moment, which, fair, the game is schizophrenic. You can't deny that there is a logic behind it.
Definitely. God, I can't wait for Psycho Patrol R.
Oh, the seizures.
You know that's going to be another LP down the line.
Oh, 100%.
My fate was sealed, especially when it's got, like, more elements of Morrowind in there, which is, I'm like, hell yes, Kalio, you like the same shit I do. You also like the game design philosophy of you make intelligence potions to make yourself more intelligent so you can make more powerful intelligence potions.
Just gonna snowball this shit right the way to breaking the game in half like a twiglet.
Yeah.
So, so apparently there's a plot going on that we have not touched on once, except for there are synthetics. Killy they ass.
Yeah, and we're killing them in style. Like, seriously, like, by this point, it is amazing just how potent you are, that even some of these upgrades we got even include the ones I talked about for our partners. Like,
yeah, I noticed
you might have
got
seen it on occasion.
Sleeper holds for Cortez.
Yep, which has two different results, and it's based on your proximity to Cortez, actually. If he Cortez can just randomly, like, grab an enemy into a sleeper hold, and by default he'll snap the person's neck and count as a kill, which thankfully enemy kills done by your teammates will still go to your point total, which is a good thing. But the other version of that is that if you're close to him when he has the enemy in the sleeper hold, he'll let them go, and they'll automatically be set up for a finishing move. So, and you're going to really appreciate that aspect of Cortez, because one of the ways this game goes about making sure that it can up the difficulty in certain areas, particularly for Mission 3, in Mission 3 and parts of 5, is that Cortez will be your only AI partner with you. So that'll be a good aspect to have, but since he isn't Doc, if you die, that's it. But he's a really good ally to have. He has definitely the best combat application ability. Although Herzog's is pretty good when it works, where his is that he just gets a random headshot that instantly kills an enemy.
So
and then Doc's special ability, once we get in near the end of the game, is if you die and he revives you, you will have an instantly refilled adrenaline meter.
Oh, nice. Just clear the area immediately.
Yep, it's like a really good way of being like a comeback mechanic. Of course, obviously you can't get that benefit if you're during the parts of the game where Doc is with you. But whatever, that's the latter half of the game when it's expected to be harder than it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got the trade-off there of no, you can't get revived, but you've got partners that can even the odds for you and make it less likely you'll die in the first place.
Yeah, it's wild to think though with how there are some really fantastic ideas in terms of gameplay that this game has, and when it lets you cook with them in missions like these, it is genuinely great. But because of how it's all paced out with the in-between mission segments, and how, the actual core gameplay lasts for, sub 2 hours, it is easy to envision a version of this that is probably, I would say, closer to what Devil's Third was, where it was just all gameplay all the time.
Yeah. Or possibly doing a modern Resident Evil with it and extending it to 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah. Like an RE4 type of format to it. I could definitely see that as well. But it's the sort of thing where, because of the way they pace it out, it all goes back to why I jokingly describe this as the most Eurojank Japanese game ever created. Because these are the sort of things where these ideas had to have existed because developers in Europe, when they're given free reign to come up with ideas, they can get really fucking out there in ways that, are sometimes they could just put the weird ideas in Japanese niche games to shame sometimes.
I mean, fucking look at Remedy.
Yeah.
And
even then, I think
anything they've done.
Then Remedy feels very much like they're not able to indulge as much in the Eurojank as much as you would think, just because they have that international clout. Kind of, I guess, the same thing that CD Projekt Red kind of finds themselves in now that they're, ever since they became known as The Witcher 3 devs.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do come up with some wild, weird-ass shit, like Ashtray Maze and the like.
It's they're one of the rare companies that, the jank actually fits into the game itself and becomes part of it, and you're like, oh shit, this is just so much cooler now.
Now, if only they could make a game that played, that was as fun and as well made as the first two Max Paynes. I did like Control for what it was. It is one of the best settings I've played through in a game, but that gameplay really taps out long before you finish it.
It's one of those games where playing Control, I'm genuinely no, this game was made for me as an individual. Just everything about it feels custom made for me and my interests. And my sense of humor, because holy shit, that game is hilarious.
Yeah, just all the different reports that you find, and just highlighting the bureaucracy of this fucking place.
There are a few things I like more than a good redacted joke, and that game is full of them, and they never outweigh their welcome.
Oh yeah.
So Daphne Justin's dead.
So he. No, thankfully she's not on site with us. It's all right. That was actually the that was some other cop who ended up dead.
And he was 3 days away from retirement.
Incidentally, his name was also Mike.
Mike! Sorry.
So here's our fight with August, the second boss of the game. And this is actually one of those things that made me... that it was a contributing factor in me deciding against doing the main LP on Japanese hard. Because going through this fight, this whole sequence, when you don't have all your upgrades and shit yet, is like... It was, no joke, the most frustrating part of the game for me. Because on a mode where you cannot regain health from attacking enemies again, and this dude is just shooting at you intermittently with an assault rifle.
Yeah, he reminds me of so many Deus Ex bosses, which were a bad idea in the first place.
Yeah, it is a fight that on Japanese hard when you're starting out, like, because you can't go into higher difficulties on New Game Plus. Like, you have to beat Japanese hard by default on a fresh new game, similar to how you had to beat Master Ninja on a fresh game in Ninja Gaiden 2 if you wanted to play it again with all weapons.
Yeah, I was thinking Resident Evil 4. You can carry on to a higher difficulty.
Yeah, that's very much of a similar design. So as a result, when you play this on the higher difficulties first time, you have to play it way safer than I personally think is fun.
Yeah, turtling is fine intermittently, but when it becomes all you can do, it's like, why am I even bothering?
Yeah. Which is why when that eventual Japanese Hard New Game Plus video comes out that I put together after this, it is very much going to be on New Game Plus for a reason, so I can make this fight somewhat more entertaining. Yeah, like if he's gonna be a bitch using guns like this, then there's no reason for me to not use them either.
Bitch is as bitch does.
Yeah, just keep shooting him until he decides to get in close, at which point I will wail on him with melee. It's the sort of thing where, like, that strategy, I think kind of... Like, I think that contributes to why it's been very difficult to try and, like, sell people on the idea why this hybrid concept of melee and shooting action can work. And it's because of the idea that I think people get way too much in their heads the idea that whichever way that the enemy is fighting, they have to match that style.
Yeah.
Whereas you've seen me play Devil's Third, even when enemies are shooting at you as their first form of engagement, I am charging them head first with melee, and if there's an enemy that I still need to attack to keep the chain going, but they're not in melee range, that's when I bust out the guns. And I go back to melee once that is resolved. It's like, it really is like you can't approach it as a playstyle thing or a match the enemies type of playstyle. Like, the point is you have to treat them all as one and the same.
I mean, everyone knows
and I feel
that...
August kind of gets away from that when you are forced to approach it that way.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows you never bring a knife to a gunfight. So if the enemies have guns,
exactly,
you use guns. Like, it's not just a joke, it is common sense.
Yeah. And Devil's Third, like, its breakthrough it was trying to push was to basically go against that common sense. And lo and behold, it got negative reviews everywhere. I mean, I got reviews for that were negative for a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, with a lot of them being deserved. I mean, I make no excuses for that game's frame rate and how it looks.
Fundamentally, it was not a well-designed game.
It was a game that had to sacrifice on everything except the game design, and I still applaud Itagaki for that. So, Cap, here's the body count.
How many did you kill? All of them, I think.
What in the world happened here?
How many? Yes.
Police procedure? You know,
Yeah, standard police procedure. That's the usual excuse.
Standard police procedure.
No racism involved, we promise.
Standard police procedure. Assuming that if by police you mean bubonic plague.
Gang tattoos. He seemed to be in charge.
No survivors.
On helicopter.
A fucking
No survivors except for their leader and like a female synthetic that we managed to capture alive.
Oh, we are gonna have a fun time talking to Grimes in the next video.
With him on board.
We got her. She's alive.
Why'd you have to curse this?
I question her.
That's it though. Yeah, like when it gets to the like
Cap, I think I know
when we
something.
learn more about like that
Sir,
particular
Too many
character.
things happen at once.
I think you'll be
Heist,
surprised when you see it, but like it's
this.
probably like
Every lead we have
her
says
interrogation
there's a
will
new player
end
in
up being
town.
like the
Instead of
one of the
getting Dowers'
best, if not
in
the
our
best,
office,
like
we end up picking
attempts at a
trash.
serious
to
scene
the
that
damn
doesn't like fumble.
I'm just saying,
Ah.
we
Because
might
what
not
gets
know.
talked about in the interrogation is actually
Oh, shit.
important and
Detective
interesting.
Stone
Kind of
has
reminds
leads.
me, or makes me
Wake up.
think of
This case leaked
Deadly
from the very
Premonition,
start.
where
Do I
you
need
get
to
to the
explain how you get
autopsy
paid
scene,
at the
and
end
it's
of each month?
literally one of the best scenes in the entire game.
Yeah.
Like, they pull it off, and you're just sort of like, holy shit, this is... Now I know what I'm in for.
Yeah, it's early enough that like the impact really works because it's like, oh yeah, oh this game is a legit detective mystery thriller
Yep.
with supernatural bullshit.
We can do it the easy way, or we can do it
Time for more hilariously inhuman conversations.
crunchies, right?
Hands on the wheel, so I could see them.
Great, they're talking about their crunchies again.
Hands on the wheel.
10 and 2, 10 and 2.
Is it vinegar or sea salt?
Ugh.
Shit, paprika. You know I hate paprika.
What happened to his voice?
You could have told me.
I think he took a bite of the chips that she was saying and just like was having a clearly allergic reaction to the paprika. Or it probably contained all the paprika that was left over from that lasagna recipe.
Yeah, I saw the jar. There wasn't much left.
Next time one of your special lady friends evicts your ass.
Yeah, so they're
my
obviously
truck
just
will
talking
compliment
shit at each other and just being like, man, I can't wait until you fucking die and I can serve out the rest of my sentence without you.
I'm sitting next to you.
You know, friend stuff.
Somewhere,
Also, a Black Widow just got crushed.
somewhere Quentin Tarantino is crying and he doesn't know why.
You're on your way to redemption.
When
Yeah.
I'm done with you, I'm on my way.
Though it's weird that a synthetic would be scared of an extremely venomous spider.
Well, they do have blood. Lots of it.
Yeah,
Later.
I mean, you would think that it would be artificial,
Hmm.
considering... Ah, but who cares? Cooking show!
God, here we go.
What do we got today, Vivienne?
It's your girl, Vivienne Niemandsverdriet. And today we're doing the best.
It is because of this cooking show that I finally
in your
understand
life.
how the fuck you pronounce her last name.
Let's face it, since the collapse of the Western Bloc, fruits cost
Western
arm
Bloc?
and a leg. You'll never be able to bake
Jesus.
a with fresh
Yeah, no
fruit
wonder this
unless
game
you're
isn't set in
baller.
America.
This is where
I don't
our
even want to know what it looks
sponsor
like there.
comes in.
Also, that
Blueberry
leopard
mix.
print, like,
The king
outfit she's
of
wearing,
processed
along with the
fruit.
makeup, like, they really do try to make her look like
Let
she
that
is
rest
20
for a
years older
moment.
than she actually is.
We're gonna start
She looks like a
on the
cougar
caramel.
who's desperately trying to look young, and they got a young woman who's desperately trying to
Who
look
needs
old,
water?
but still
We have
graceful.
cider,
There's a
right?
very sort of lot lizard
Medium
feel
heat.
about her general outfit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the
Oh,
leopard
yeah.
print and the
Caramel
frankly violent purple eyeshadow, or
and one glass for me.
One glass for you, and then 2, and then 3, and then 10.
down it in
You
one.
know what? Let's make it 2.
Yeah, like I said, let's make it 2.
Fucking rack 'em up, sister.
Meanwhile, our producer's just shaking her head.
Okay, so that bottle has a skull and crossbones on it. That doesn't look like a happy thing.
Yeah. The funny thing as well is, like, I think there was a version of this that was filmed for, like, the TGS reveal that was aired in addition to the trailer. And it might have been for a different recipe than the ones that are in the game, or maybe it was the same
Just
one, just
so
an
you
early
know,
version. But there was actually like a
booze makes
miniature
every
model of the
dessert
spider tank
spectacular.
that was up on that high shelf next to the ducks.
Yeah, I noticed the ducks.
Yeah, so I think it was one of those things that was designed to remind
Less is
you, yes,
more,
this is part of the
but
game.
More just feels better.
Gurgle, 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 gurgle.
This is gonna be the
Low
most
heat.
berry crumble to get drunk on, I can tell.
Now we take care of
With the amount
You
of
ever had crumble?
with the amount of booze that she's pouring in, it's not going to be a crumble so much
sure
as it's going to be a slop.
the butter is ice cold. Flour. In.
Flour. Punctuation. Insert. In.
kind of surprised that they still have flour, but okay.
Brown sugar.
Yeah, considering all like the
Be generous.
other stuff that is
Be
apparently
aimlessly
wiped out
around
in the
here.
wake of World War X.
Yep.
Oh god. If anything,
get
just
your
props
hands
to
greasy.
110 Industry for just like
Now.
whoever they've hired to come up with like
Mix
these
it
insane
with your
backstories
both
and
hands,
synopses
unless
for
you
their
have only
games.
one.
Disabled
And
joke.
wait.
You know,
Until the
unless
crumble.
you're a casualty of the war, in which case,
Crumbles.
he'll work it out.
Feel
Yeah.
texture.
Feel the texture. I certainly know. I already don't like feeling the texture when it comes to like making
You
dough
might
with
want to
flour and
add
water.
Your own.
But I put up with it anyway because how
Homemade
else will I
granola
make my
mix.
homemade pizzas?
But who in the world makes their own granola?
No, seriously, tell me, so I can hunt them down. They know what they
And
did.
steal their granola.
They know what they did. I want names, damn it.
We're gonna need to extend the Nuremberg trials to people that make their own granola.
Bleh.
Gorgeous.
God damn it.
You know exactly the video I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. God damn it.
Now take the mix. Start from the
For
center.
real though, it's like I wish I could.
And make
I'd have to
your
dig up
way
like the
around
Wanted
the
Dead
pan.
official Discord server again because I know that they had like the like a channel that had like all like the backstory info there that explained a lot more about all the other stuff. I recall
Now.
fragments
open.
of it like explaining how like the millennials were now described as the new lost generation.
Oh god.
100 degrees.
Like it was some insane shit, and that's still nothing compared to like the synopsis I've seen
15
for Vengeance is Mine, which sounds like it sounds cracked out in the way that like I fully expect 110
Just
Industries to
look
have come
at
up
it.
with, considering what
Why
this
get
game is
so
rocking
high on
with,
this thing? It should be illegal.
like heroin.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm amazed that heroin is actually illegal in this
Oh
world.
my, this crumble is ridiculous.
Something to get you through.
So juicy.
Yeah. Which, you know what, I think as we're like
And
closing this
remember,
out, because I keep mentioning
wolfberry
Vengeance
mix
is
really
Mine,
makes
I
a
am going
difference
to
here.
look it up quickly because holy shit, it is a wild idea. We use this to kind of close out the video for real to describe just what is Vengeance is Mine about, other than it's also a game that's being made by Soleil, so they're still getting work from 110 even after this.
against all common sense.
In Vengeance is Mine, players step into the shoes of Gabriel Jaeger, who was brutally executed by 3 time travelers heading back to 1664 to obtain an old piece of technology that will enable them to operate the Deacon, a derelict military installation buried under the streets of New Amsterdam. Charles Jaeger, now in full control of the Deacon, rallies his flock to meet the spiritual leader Robert Wright beyond the horizon of space and time. His only problem is Gabriel. Barely making it out alive, Gabriel is in control of the prototype Hydra mech suit and ready to wreak his revenge.
What happened?
Also, there's going to be music by Queen, Giorgio Moroder, and Stephanie Houston.
Does anyone else smell toast? Cannot feel my arm anymore.
Our heroes for the AA video game space, ladies and gentlemen.
Does anyone hear a ringing? Sounds like a bell. Weird.